Please, my stomach hurts. Matthew Stone had just stepped out of his black SUV, the collar of his expensive wool coat pulled tight around his neck. The city of San Francisco was a blur of glistening pavement and neon lights behind him, and the sound of champagne glasses clinking at the tech gala still echoed faintly in his mind. But that whisper, that cut through everything. He paused, one foot on the curb, the other on the slick asphalt. The whisper came again. Please. He turned toward the alley beside the convention center's service entrance. At first, he saw nothing, just darkness, scattered trash bins, and rain pouring off rusted gutters. Then, beneath a flickering security light, he saw her. A little girl, 6, maybe 7 years old. Soaking wet, crouched behind a dumpster, clutching her belly with both arms. Her clothes were little more than torn scraps, an oversized t-shirt, mismatched socks, no shoes. Her skin was scraped in places, streaked with dirt and bruises. Her eyes, wide and glassy, locked onto his. Hey, he said, stepping toward her slowly, hands open. It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you. She flinched at his voice. It's all right, you're safe now. He knelt beside her, ignoring the puddles soaking his slacks. What's your name? The girl didn't answer. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his phone. I'm calling an ambulance. At the word ambulance, she jerked backward, slamming against the dumpster with a wince. Her eyes filled with terror. No, she cried out hoarsely. No police, no hospital. Matthew froze. Something was deeply wrong. He tucked the phone back. Okay, no ambulance. Just, can I take you somewhere warm? The girl nodded faintly. Matthew lifted her gently. She weighed next to nothing. As he cradled her in his arms, he felt the tremble of her body, the unnatural warmth radiating from her skin fever. She buried her face in his coat, moaning in pain. Back in the SUV, she curled into the passenger seat. Matthew turned up the heat, handed her a bottle of water from the console, and drove not toward his penthouse, but toward Mercy Children's Hospital. The only private facility nearby, open 24/7. In the ER, a nurse met them immediately. The girl clutched Matthew's coat, refusing to let go. I can't be alone, she whispered, her voice nearly gone. The nurse looked to Matthew. Is she your daughter? He hesitated. No, I found her. Name? I don't know, she hasn't said. The nurse nodded, taking the child gently. We'll do everything we can. Please wait here. Matthew sat in the hallway, dripping rain onto the polished floor, his mind a whirlwind. He'd made his first billion by age 30, had sat across presidents and kings, had spoken about AI and ethics in Geneva. But in this sterile hallway, with a nameless girl fighting pain in the next room, none of it mattered. An hour later, Dr. Elena Morrison approached. Her expression was unreadable, but her tone was clinical. She's stable, but very dehydrated, malnourished. She has abdominal bruising, some older, some new. We found evidence of sexual trauma. Matthew blinked. I'm sorry? He asked, not sure if he'd heard correctly. Dr. Morrison continued carefully. There are signs of prolonged abuse, physical and sexual, not from a single incident. This has been happening over time. He stood up slowly, his breath catching in his chest. She's 6. The words fell from his lips like stones. She's 6 years old, and someone did that to her? If this story moved you, let us know what you think in the comments, and share where you are watching from. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss the next story. Dr. Morrison nodded grimly. Yes. And not just once. Matthew turned away for a moment, placing both hands on the wall as though to steady himself. His mind reeled faces from the gala, polished smiles, empty speeches about building a better future. None of it mattered. Not now. Not in the face of this. She said her name is Anna, the doctor added. Beyond that, we don't know anything. No records. No missing person report. She's terrified of police, terrified of men. She asked if you were still here. He turned back, his voice quieter. She asked for me? She did. He walked into the room. Anna was lying under white sheets, an IV taped to her arm. Her eyes fluttered open when he entered. I stayed, he said softly. Tears welled up in her eyes. She didn't say anything, just reached a small hand toward him. He took it. I won't let anyone hurt you, he added, surprised at the words coming out of his own mouth. She nodded, eyes closing again, fingers still clinging to his. He sat beside her until dawn. By morning, social workers arrived. So did a detective. Matthew was asked questions, lots of them. He answered all, calmly. He signed forms, gave statements, made calls. By noon, a woman arrived. She wore a thrift store coat, reeking of cigarettes and stale perfume. Her hands trembled as she held a crumpled photo of Anna. I'm her mother, she said. Anna, awake now, saw her and froze. No, the girl whispered. No. The woman rushed forward, but Anna screamed a piercing cry that silenced the room. Don't let her take me, Anna sobbed. Please don't make me go back. The nurse blocked the mother's path. The detective held up a hand. Matthew stood, heart pounding. What the hell is going on? The mother began crying. It's not what you think. I didn't know. He said he'd stop. Who? Matthew asked. Her stepfather. The woman murmured. He said it was just punishment. I didn't want to lose him. I didn't know what to do. The words hung in the air like poison. Dr. Morrison turned to Matthew. Can you stay with Anna while we handle this? He didn't hesitate. He entered Anna's room again. She was curled in a fetal position, sobbing silently. She's not taking you, he said firmly. No one island. I promise. She looked up. You believe me? I do. And for the first time since he'd found her, Anna smiled just slightly. It was small, and it hurt to see how broken it was. But it was real. Matthew sat beside her, not knowing what came next, only that he was no longer walking away. Not this time. Matthew Stone sat silently in the hospital room, his hand still wrapped around Anna's. Her grip had loosened as she drifted back to sleep, her breathing finally steady. But he didn't move. The morning light filtered weakly through the blinds, painting thin stripes across the sterile walls. Somewhere down the hall, a phone rang. Somewhere else, someone laughed. But in this room, the world held its breath. The events of the last 12 hours played over in Matthew's mind like a jagged film reel. Anna's voice, her trembling hand, her mother's hollow excuses. He said it was just punishment. That line twisted in his chest. He had spent decades building a name synonymous with innovation, logic, and power. Yet none of his billions could undo what had already been done to that little girl. He stood slowly, stretched his stiff back, and glanced at the glass window looking out into the hallway. A tall man in a navy blue blazer stood just beyond it, clipboard in hand. Government, Child Protective Services, probably. Matthew stepped outside. Mr. Stone, the man asked, extending a hand. My name is Marcus Darnell, CPS. Matthew shook it briefly. Is she being taken today? Marcus hesitated. That's why I'm here, but it's complicated. What's complicated? You have a child, clearly abused, terrified of her own mother. What's left to discuss? There's no legal documentation proving abuse from the mother herself, Marcus replied. The injuries point to the stepfather, yes, but without a direct statement from Anna or concrete evidence. The mother still has partial custody. Matthew's jaw tensed. She knew, she admitted it. Off the record, no signed affidavit, and she's claiming duress. Marcus lowered his voice. Look, I want to do the right thing here. I have 2 daughters. But my hands are tied unless a judge orders protective custody. Matthew crossed his arms. Then get a judge. Marcus sighed. It's Sunday, courts are slow, and her mother's threatening to sue the hospital for holding Anna without consent. Matthew's voice dropped an octave. That woman walks out of here with that child, and I swear to God. I know, Marcus said, holding up a hand. We're trying to buy time. Matthew turned back to the window. Anna was stirring, her tiny body curled on its side like a wounded bird. I'll hire the best attorney in the state. She's not going back. Marcus gave a small nod. If you can secure temporary guardianship, that would help. But you'd need to be vetted, background checked. Run it, Matthew said without hesitation. Run everything you want. Back inside, Anna blinked up at him. Is she gone? She asked. Matthew knelt beside her. Yes, and you're safe. Anna's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She simply looked relieved, as if she had been holding her breath since birth and was finally allowed to exhale. I don't want to go back, she whispered. He says I lie. He hits Mommy when I cry. She tells me to be quiet. I try. Matthew placed a hand gently on her shoulder. You don't have to go back. Not ever. She nodded, curling tighter under the blanket. He sat by her side, pulling out his phone and dialing his general counsel. It was time to move mountains. By that afternoon, the storm outside had rolled in hard. Rain battered the hospital windows, the sky a wash of gray steel. Inside the legal department, calls flew back and forth. Matthew's attorneys filed emergency guardianship motions, pushed for temporary protective custody orders, and made contact with family court judges across the county. Money talked, but so did influence, and Matthew Stone had both. While the legal wheels turned, Anna was moved to a more private room, one with fewer windows and less noise. Dr. Morrison returned with updates. The internal injuries were healing, but emotionally, Anna was deeply fractured. She spoke little, trusted no one, and jumped at every sudden noise. She needs stability, the doctor said. A quiet environment. Gentle care. Therapy. Time. She'll have all of it, Matthew said. You can't save every child, Morrison said gently. I'm not trying to, he replied. I'm saving her. Late that evening, Marcus returned with news. The court granted you temporary emergency guardianship, he said, handing Matthew a sealed envelope. You're officially her guardian until further notice. Matthew didn't react at first. He just stared at the paper. Then, for the first time in years, he felt something sharp and unfamiliar move in his chest. Purpose. She'll stay with me, he said. I'll set up whatever is needed. Nanny, security, therapist, school. Marcus smiled. You don't do anything halfway, do you? Not when it matters, Matthew replied. He returned to Anna's room with the papers in hand. She looked up from the children's book a nurse had given her. Can I show you something? He asked. She nodded. He sat beside her, unfolded the guardianship order, and handed it to her like a treasure. This means you stay with me. No one can take you without my permission. Anna stared at the document, not fully understanding but sensing something important. She reached out, pressing her palm to it, then to Matthew's arm. Do people go to jail for hurting kids? She asked. His expression darkened. Yes, they do. She nodded again, almost satisfied. That night, Matthew didn't go home. He stayed in the hospital room, sleeping in the chair beside her bed. When the nurses came in, they moved more quietly. Even the heart monitor seemed to beep a little softer. At 3:12 a.m., Anna had a nightmare. She cried out, flailing in her sleep. Matthew was at her side in seconds, his hand on her back, whispering gently until she calmed. I dreamed he found me, she said through tears. That he said I was his. No matter what. Matthew looked her in the eyes. You're not his. You're nobody's property. And he'll never find you again. Anna leaned into his chest, clutching his shirt. Promise? I promise. And though the rain continued to fall outside, inside that room, for the first time in a long time, someone had kept their word. The following week passed in a strange blur, part calm, part chaos. Matthew Stone had turned the top floor of his modern penthouse into a sanctuary for Anna. He'd moved out the expensive furniture, replaced glass tables with padded corners, and added soft lighting, pastel colors, and plush toys carefully selected by a child psychologist. A small cot had been set up in his bedroom at Anna's request. She refused to sleep more than a few feet away from him. She just needs to feel she won't be abandoned, the psychologist had said after the second session. It's not about space. It's about safety. Matthew wasn't used to this kind of vulnerability, especially not his own. His life had always been controlled, structured, firewalled like one of his systems. But now, he was brushing tangles out of a little girl's hair at 7 in the morning, sitting beside her during therapy appointments, and learning how to soothe nightmares without using logic. It wasn't easy. Anna was quiet most days. She followed Matthew from room to room like a shadow, her eyes tracking every sudden movement. She didn't cry often, only when she thought he couldn't hear, and she still flinched if anyone, especially a man, came too close too fast. But there were moments, tiny, glimmering moments, when she laughed. It was the third morning in the apartment, when she discovered Matthew had never tasted peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. "What do you mean you've never had one?" she said, eyes wide, voice high-pitched with disbelief. He gave her a half-smile. "I ate in boardrooms, not school cafeterias." "That's so weird," she whispered, shaking her head. "Even aliens know PB&J. Matthew made her one, carefully cutting off the crust. She made him one too, though she smashed the bread a little too hard and licked some of the jelly off first when she thought he wasn't looking. He ate it anyway. She beamed. Later that day, the detective assigned to the case, Detective Carla Jensen, stopped by. She was different from the others, calm, kind, sharp-eyed. Still, Anna shrank behind Matthew when she arrived. Carla lowered herself to Anna's eye level, holding out a small stuffed bear. "His name is Oliver. I brought him just for you. He's a good listener." Anna took it cautiously, clutched it tight. Carla looked to Matthew. "We've gathered enough for a warrant. The stepfather, Russell Grant, has been under quiet surveillance. There are other complaints. 2, maybe 3 more girls in the neighborhood. One ran away a year ago. Never found." Matthew's jaw tightened. "What about the mother?" "She's changed her story twice. Claims she feared for her life. Might be true, might not. But unless she talks or someone else steps forward, we won't get a conviction on her." Matthew glanced at Anna, who was running her fingers along Oliver's ears. "She told me he used to hurt her even when the mother was home," he said quietly. "She said her mom would leave the room and turn up the TV." Carla exhaled. "If she's willing to give a recorded statement, we can move faster." "She's 6, Matthew replied. "You really want to put her on record? Better us than a courtroom later." Matthew looked down at the bear in Anna's arms. "She trusts you?" "More than most." He turned back to the child psychologist that afternoon. "Should I let her talk to the detective?" The psychologist paused. "Only if Anna brings it up first. If she asks why people keep visiting, give her honesty in simple terms. But don't push." That evening, while Matthew was helping Anna stack colored blocks on the living room floor, she asked it herself, "Why does that lady in the jacket keep coming?" Matthew set a block down gently. "Because she wants to help. She wants to make sure the man who hurt you doesn't hurt anyone else." Anna stared at the tower. "Can she do that?" "Not without you." Silence. Then, "What if I tell, and he comes back?" "He won't." "You don't know that." Matthew leaned closer, speaking softly but firmly. "I do know this. He'll never come near you again. And if you're brave enough to talk to the detective, maybe you'll help other girls too. Girls who are still scared, like you were." Anna nodded barely. "Okay. But only if you're there. I'll be right beside you," he promised. The next day, she sat in a sunlit room in the CPS building with Detective Jensen and Matthew. Her voice was quiet, her words hesitant. But she spoke. She told them everything. About the locked closet, about the bruises, about the fear. Carla's hand shook as she stopped the recorder. Matthew drove Anna home in silence, one hand gripping the steering wheel too tightly. When they arrived, she climbed into his lap on the couch and said nothing for a long time. Finally, "I thought no one would believe me." Matthew held her tighter. "They do now. And I always did." The arrest came 2 days later. Russell Grant was taken into custody with overwhelming evidence: Anna's testimony, past reports, physical proof, and new witnesses emboldened by the news breaking out. He didn't say a word as cameras flashed. The case was picked up by national media. Commentators called Anna the brave little girl who broke the silence. Her mother tried to regain custody, tried to spin herself as a victim, but her petition was denied. She had been given too many chances to act and never had. The court stripped her parental rights, permanently. A week after the arrest, Anna was approved for long-term foster care with Matthew. The morning after the hearing, Anna sat on the balcony with Oliver the bear in her lap. Matthew joined her, 2 mugs of hot cocoa in hand, hers with extra marshmallows. "Did you know you're a hero now?" he asked. "I don't feel like one," she whispered. "Heroes never do." She looked up at him. "Will you still stay? Even now that it's over?" He smiled. "It's not over, Anna. It's just beginning. And yes, I'm staying. Always." She leaned her head against his arm, eyes closed, voice sleepy. "Then maybe I'll be okay." And as the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks, Matthew realized something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, quiet, gentle, and real. The first time Anna called him Daddy, it was an accident. They were in the grocery store, of all places, Matthew pushing the cart, Anna perched inside, swinging her legs in rhythm with the soft music playing overhead. She was carefully choosing cereal, squinting at the boxes like a serious little librarian. He reached for a box of plain oats, and she wrinkled her nose. "That one tastes like sand." He smirked. "It's healthy. I'm 6. I'm supposed to have sugar." Sugar isn't a food group." She crossed her arms. "Mommy used to buy the kind with marshmallows." Matthew paused. "And did you like it?" She hesitated. "I think I just liked that it was mine." He picked up the bright, colorful box she had been staring at. "Then this one's yours." She blinked, surprised. "Really? You're safe now, Anna. You get to have things of your own." She smiled then. Wider than he'd seen in days, and without thinking, she said it. "Thanks, Daddy." He froze. So did she. The word just hung in the air. Her eyes widened, and she quickly looked down at the cereal box like it might swallow her whole. "I didn't mean," she began. Matthew knelt beside the cart, resting one hand on the metal edge. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay. I didn't mean to say it. It's okay to say it." Her voice dropped. "I know you're not my real dad." He gave her a smile, gentle and sure. "Real dads show up. Real dads protect. If that's what you need me to be, then I'm proud to be that." She looked at him a long moment. Then she reached forward and hugged him tightly. Her arms around his neck. Small and certain. And he realized then, she had started to heal. Back home, their days settled into a rhythm. Breakfasts with mismatched pancakes. Afternoons with picture books. Evenings with silly cartoons and cocoa. Anna had therapy twice a week, and private tutoring 3 times. She liked art the most, especially finger painting. One afternoon, she presented him with a drawing. It showed a stick figure man with glasses and a smaller girl with curly hair, holding hands under a rainbow. The words, "My new home," were written in shaky crayon letters across the top. "I put a rainbow because it means everything's better after the rain," she explained. He didn't say anything. He just framed it and hung it in his office. But healing, Matthew had learned, wasn't linear. Some nights, Anna still screamed in her sleep. Some mornings, she wouldn't speak at all. Loud noises startled her. The sight of certain shadows could make her freeze. She clung to Oliver, the bear, like he was a life preserver. The worst came one evening during a storm. A clap of thunder shook the windows, and Anna disappeared. Matthew searched the apartment, calling her name, panic rising. He found her in the hallway closet, wedged behind coats, shaking violently. Her eyes were wild. "I thought he came back," she whispered. "I thought he found me." Matthew knelt, slowly reaching toward her. "He didn't. He never will. You're here. You're safe." But I heard him in my head. He sat on the floor beside her, not trying to drag her out, not rushing her, just there. "Sometimes the ghosts take longer to leave," he said. "But they can't touch you anymore. Not while I'm here." She curled into his side. And they sat in that dark little closet until the storm passed. A few weeks later, Detective Carla Jensen returned. "There's a development," she said, settling into the armchair across from Matthew. Anna was at her art lesson downstairs. "They found the missing girl," she continued. "The one who disappeared last year. She's alive. She escaped." She saw Anna's story on the news and came forward. Matthew felt the tension in his chest give way to a rush of adrenaline. She identified Russell Grant? Positively. Her statement, combined with Anna's and the evidence we seized, means the DA is pushing for multiple felony charges. He won't be out. Not for a very long time. Matthew exhaled. What about Anna's mother? She's being charged with child endangerment and neglect. She's claiming trauma, but there's little sympathy left for her. She'll likely serve time. He didn't smile. He didn't feel triumph. He just felt resolved. That night, he told Anna the truth. Russell won't hurt anyone again, he said. And your mom, she won't either. Anna sat silently, hugging Oliver. Then, are they mad at me? No, Matthew said firmly. You're not the one who did something wrong. You're the one who stopped it. She looked down at the bear. I don't know if I feel brave. Brave isn't something you feel. It's something you are. Then she whispered, Can I stay with you forever? Matthew reached for her hand. If you want that, then yes. Muck's daddy. He began the adoption process the very next day. It wasn't easy. The press still hounded him, questioning his motives, his history, his suitability. Old photos were dug up, stories twisted. Billionaire tech savior or PR strategy? One headline asked. He ignored them all. He showed up to every court date, met every requirement, passed every test. 6 months later, it was official. Anna Rosestone. She wore a white dress to the final hearing, hair braided with ribbons, Oliver tucked in her arms. The judge asked if she wanted to say anything. She stood on tiptoes, looked straight ahead, and said clearly, This is my dad. He found me when no one else would. And now I'm found. The courtroom was silent. The gavel came down. Adopted. That evening, they returned home to a quiet celebration, just the two of them. Pizza, chocolate cake, a movie with singing animals. Anna climbed into his lap halfway through, sticky fingers and all. Is it okay if I call you Daddy all the time now? She asked. He kissed the top of her head. It always was. It started with the shoes. Bright yellow sneakers with Velcro straps and little cartoon suns on the sides. Anna saw them in a shop window during a quiet walk one Saturday morning. She froze mid-step, eyes wide, nose nearly pressed to the glass. Do you like them? Matthew asked, crouching beside her. She hesitated. They're happy shoes. He smiled. Then let's get them. No, she said quickly. They're too bright. People will look. Matthew paused. And if they do? I don't like when people look. He nodded slowly. Okay. But if you ever want them, you just tell me. They kept walking. But Matthew noticed something after that. Every time they passed that shop, Anna's eyes darted to the window. Just for a moment. The fourth time, she didn't look away. I think I'm ready, she whispered. He didn't need to ask what she meant. The shoes became her badge of courage. She wore them to her next therapy session, to the park, and eventually to school. It was a small, private elementary school, just 2 blocks from their building. They had agreed with the psychologist to ease her in, a few hours a day, starting with art and story time. Anna clung to Matthew's hand on the first morning. Face pale, breath shallow. What if they don't like me? She asked. They don't know you yet. Give them a chance. I don't know how to talk to kids. You're a kid, he reminded her gently. She looked up at him. But I'm not like them. He knelt beside her. That's true. You've been through more than most grown-ups. But you're also strong and kind. And you're not alone anymore. Remember that. She nodded, then whispered, Will you wait outside? As long as it takes. So I did. He sat in the car, laptop in hand, canceling meetings, ignoring emails. The hours passed. When Anna returned, a painted paper crown was tilted on her head. I'm Queen Banana, she said with a tired smile. He didn't ask what the name meant. He just bowed low and said, Your Majesty. School became a rhythm. Mondays brought nerves. But by Wednesdays, she was humming at breakfast. Fridays meant stickers from her teacher, Miss Ellis, and stories about a boy named Tyler who liked to eat glue. But even as the days smoothed out, trauma lingered like shadows on a sunny wall. It showed up in subtle ways. The way Anna checked every door lock before bed. The way she flinched at sudden laughter. The way she sometimes asked, "Do I still live here?" Like it wasn't quite real. One night, after a particularly rough nightmare, she sat on the couch in her pajamas, knees pulled to her chest. "Do you think broken things can be fixed?" she asked. Matthew sat beside her, holding 2 mugs of warm milk. "I think broken things don't always need to be fixed. Sometimes they need to be held, understood, and given time." She looked at him. "But I feel cracked." He placed the mug in her hands. "Cracks. Let the light in." They sat in silence after that. The kind of silence that said more than words ever could. Weeks turned into months. Spring rolled into summer, and with it came milestones. Anna learned to ride a bike wobbling, yelling, laughing. She made a friend named Mia, who loved dinosaurs and traded stickers at lunch. She sang in her school's end-of-year program, though she never let go of Matthew's hand in the front row. One Sunday morning, while they were planting herbs on the penthouse balcony, Anna asked a question that made him pause mid-shovel. "Did you always want to be a dad?" He looked at the little hands digging beside him, dirt on her cheeks, hair tied in uneven pigtails. "No," he said honestly. "I didn't think I'd be good at it." "Are you?" "I don't know," he admitted, "but I try, every day." She looked at him carefully. "You're good at showing up," and somehow, that felt more important than any answer. As summer deepened, they took a short trip upstate to a quiet lake cabin, Matthew's first time away from the city in years. They fished. Badly. They made s'mores. Anna learned how to skip stones and got mad when her record was only 2. At night, they lay on the dock, staring at the stars. "Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if we never met?" she asked. "All the time. And I think it would be quieter. But lonelier. And a lot less full." She nodded. "Me too." That night, she didn't wake from any nightmares. In early August, Matthew received an email from Carla Jensen. The trial for Russell Grant was set. Multiple charges. Testimonies from other girls. Ironclad evidence. She ended the message with, Anna's voice started it all. "You should be proud." He read it twice, then closed the laptop and walked to Anna's room. She was drawing another rainbow. This one had people holding hands underneath it. "Want to go out for ice cream?" he asked. She grinned. "With sprinkles?" "Only if the Queen allows it." That night, as they sat on a bench outside the shop, sticky fingers and melting cones, Anna leaned her head against his arm. "You know," she said softly, "sometimes I still feel sad. Or scared. And sometimes I get mad. Like really mad." "Is that bad?" "No," Matthew said. "That's human. I don't want to forget what happened. But I don't want it to be the only thing about me." He looked down at her. "It won't be. Not ever." "Huh." She took another bite, then said, "I think I'm writing a new story." He smiled. "I think you are too." And as the sun dipped below the rooftops and the city hummed around them, Matthew Stone realized something else. Healing wasn't about erasing the past. It was about building something stronger on top of it. One step, one day. One bright pair of shoes at a time. The courthouse was colder than Anna expected. Not in temperature. Matthew had made sure she wore her favorite soft sweater. The one with the stitched flowers on the sleeves, but cold in feeling. Too many gray walls. Too many serious faces. The fluorescent lights made everything look a little too sharp, too sterile. She clutched Oliver, her bear, against her chest and leaned into Matthew's side as they waited outside the courtroom. "Do I have to go in?" she whispered. Matthew looked down at her, eyes gentle, but steady. "Only if you feel ready." Anna bit her lip. "What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing?" "There's no wrong thing when you tell the truth," he said. "And I'll be right there. No one's going to make you do anything alone." She nodded, just once, and squeezed Oliver tighter. Inside, the room buzzed with quiet tension. Lawyers shuffled papers. The prosecutor looked focused, her mouth a tight line. Russell Grant sat across the aisle, shackled, in a prison-issue suit. Anna didn't look at him, but Matthew saw her hands shake. He placed his over hers, grounding her. The judge entered. Proceedings began. There were testimonies from professionals, doctors, therapists, forensic specialists. Then the other girls, brave, trembling voices telling stories too similar to Anna's. Matthew kept glancing down at his daughter. Her face was unreadable, but her grip on the bear had gone white-knuckled. Then the judge called Anna's name. The room seemed to freeze. She stood slowly, walked forward like each step cost something. Oliver stayed in her arms. She was sworn in. The judge offered her a small smile. "You can hold your bear, sweetheart." "Thank you," Anna whispered. The prosecutor asked the questions gently, kindly. Anna answered. Quiet at first, then clearer. She told them about the closet, about the bruises, about the things he made her say and do. Her voice didn't break, but the silence that followed her words did. Then came the defense. Russell's lawyer stood, a man with a polished voice and practiced smile. "Anna, can you tell us how old you were when these things happened?" She hesitated. 5 and 6. "Do you know the difference between imagination and memory?" Matthew's jaw clenched. "I know what happened," Anna said, firmer now. "Sometimes children get confused," the lawyer continued, too smooth. "Do you remember if anyone ever told you what to say? Maybe someone helped you remember?" "No," she said louder. "No one told me anything." The lawyer paced. "But your new father, Mr. Stone, he's very wealthy, isn't he? Important, powerful." Matthew's stomach turned. Anna blinked. "He gives me hugs when I cry." A few quiet gasps rippled through the room. The lawyer tried again. "But he doesn't like your stepfather, does he? He wants him to go to jail." Anna looked directly at the man. "He wants me to be safe." The lawyer paused. No further questions. Anna stepped down. As she passed the defense table, she finally turned to look at Russell, and she didn't flinch. Back at her seat, she sat beside Matthew and whispered, "I did it." He leaned down and kissed her hair. "Yes, you did." The trial lasted 2 more days. The verdict came in less than 3 hours. Guilty, on all counts. The sentencing was harsh, 40 years without parole. The courtroom buzzed with reactions, but Anna just sat still, not smiling, not crying, just breathing. Later that night, back home, she sat on the balcony wrapped in a blanket, staring at the city lights. Matthew brought her a cup of cocoa, then sat beside her. "Does it feel better?" he asked. She shrugged. "I thought it would feel like a big balloon popping. But it just feels quiet. Sometimes healing doesn't come with fireworks, just space to breathe." Anna looked up at him. "Is he really gone? He'll never come near you again." She nodded slowly, sipping her cocoa. A few minutes passed. Then she said, "Do you think other kids saw? On TV?" "Maybe." "Good," she said, "because now they'll know. They'll know they can say something." Matthew felt something stir in his chest, pride, sadness, awe. "You know," he said softly, "what you did in that courtroom today changed lives. Not just yours." Anna looked out over the lights again, her voice small. "Maybe that's what brave means. Maybe at Island." In the weeks that followed, the media frenzy faded. Anna returned to school, where Miss Ellis hugged her and said, "We missed our queen." Her classmates made her a banner with glitter and crayon drawings. But something else changed too. Anna began to speak. Not just in therapy, not just with Matthew, but to groups. It started with a children's advocacy center that invited her to visit, then a shelter, then a school assembly. Always short talks. Always with Oliver in her arms. "I was scared too," she would say, "but telling someone saved my life." Adults wept. Children nodded. Some spoke for the first time afterward. At home, she still had nightmares, still double-checked the locks. But she also started baking cookies, started reading out loud at bedtime, started drawing pictures with smiling stick figures and hearts. One night, as Matthew tucked her in, she said, "I want to help kids when I grow up. Maybe be a lawyer or a teacher." "You can be anything," he said. She looked up at him. "Even president?" "Especially president." She giggled. "President Banana. First law. Dessert before dinner." He laughed, pulling the blanket around her. The world's not ready. As he turned off the light, she called out, "Daddy?" "Yes? Thanks for finding me." He paused, swallowed the lump in his throat. "Thanks for letting me." Then he closed the door and stood in the hallway, listening to the sound of her soft humming. And he realized, after all the courtrooms and chaos, all the pain and perseverance, this was the moment he'd remember most. A girl, a bear, a whisper of a song in the dark, and a home finally full. Anna had never had a real birthday party. Not with balloons, not with cake, not with friends running around the room screaming in delight. She didn't even remember how old she'd turned in the years before Matthew. It had always been another day, quiet, ignored, sometimes dangerous. Her last celebration had been a leftover microwave dinner and a slap when she asked for a cupcake. But this year would be different. Matthew planned it in secret, months in advance. He involved her teachers, her therapist, even Carla Jensen. Everyone knew it had to be more than just a party. It had to be a declaration that Anna Rosestone had not only survived, she had arrived. When the morning came, she was groggy-eyed, hair a tangled mess as she walked into the living room still in her pajamas. Then she stopped. Balloons everywhere, dozens of them, floating like jellyfish in the air. Pink, yellow, blue. Streamers twisted along the walls. A giant 7 made of shiny foil swayed gently by the window. She blinked. Matthew stepped out of the kitchen wearing an apron that said, "Official Pancake Chef." "Good morning, birthday girl." "Oh." Anna's mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. "Are all those for me?" she asked in awe. He knelt down. Every single one. Then she noticed the pancakes stacked high with whipped cream and strawberries shaped like hearts. In the middle sat a tiny candle, already lit. "Make a wish," he whispered. She stared at it, then slowly closed her eyes. When she blew it out, she smiled, small and shy. "I wished for nothing," she said. "Why?" "Because I already got everything." Matthew's heart cracked in the best way. After breakfast came the next surprise, a party at the local children's museum, rented out just for the afternoon. Mia was there, and so was Tyler, who still ate glue sometimes. Miss Ellis brought her cat print purse and gave Anna a notebook full of sparkly stickers. Carla came too, wearing jeans and a smile, handing Anna a tiny silver bracelet with a single engraved word. Brave. There was face painting, a magician, and a dance corner where Anna spun in her new yellow dress until she got dizzy. Matthew watched from the side, clutching a paper plate with half a cupcake on it, eyes misty. She was laughing, uninhibited, full. At one point, she ran over and grabbed his hand. "Dance with me." He hesitated. "Anna, I don't dance. Everyone can dance. I have a reputation to protect." She pulled harder. "You're already wearing a birthday hat." He looked up. "Am I?" "You are." So he danced. Badly. Gloriously. And she laughed so hard she snorted. It was the best sound in the world. Later, as the sun set and guests left, Anna sat cross-legged in the middle of a pile of wrapping paper and ribbons. She held up a card from Mia that read, "Best friends forever, even when old." "She said that means when we have gray hair," Anna explained. Matthew chuckled. "You'll make a very stylish old lady." She picked up one last box. It was small, wrapped in gold paper with a blue ribbon. "This one doesn't say who it's from," she said. Matthew looked surprised. "That's from me." She opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny, hand-carved wooden music box. She lifted the lid, and a soft tune began to play a lullaby, warm and nostalgic. Inside was a photo, fixed beneath the lid. It was of her, holding Oliver, sitting on Matthew's lap the day the adoption was finalized. Both were smiling, eyes full of something the camera had caught perfectly, belonging. "I love it," she said, voice almost trembling. "There's more," he said gently. She looked again, confused. Then she noticed a folded paper beneath the velvet lining. She pulled it out. It was a letter. "Anna, you once asked me if I always wanted to be a dad. The truth is, I never knew what I wanted until the night I found you. You gave me purpose. You taught me courage. You saved me as much as I helped save you. This birthday is yours. But the gift has always been mine. Love, Dad." Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. I don't know what to say, she whispered. You already said it, he replied, pointing to her smile. That night, after brushing her teeth and tucking Oliver into his usual spot on the pillow, Anna crawled into bed and looked up at Matthew. Can I tell you my real wish? Of course. I wished I could grow up with you. Matthew knelt beside her, brushing a loose strand of hair from her face. You will, he said. One day at a time. She yawned, her eyes heavy. Even when I'm old? Especially then. She fell asleep moments later, holding the music box in one hand, Oliver in the other. Matthew stood by the door for a long while, watching her. The little girl who once whispered, "Please," from behind a dumpster was now sleeping beneath a canopy of stars on her ceiling, wrapped in soft sheets and love. He turned off the light, and for the first time in both their lives, there was no more running, no more hiding, no more pain hanging like fog. Only peace, only the steady rhythm of a little heart, finally safe enough to dream. It began with a school assignment. Anna had just started the 2nd grade. The classroom smelled of pencil shavings and strawberry-scented hand sanitizer. On the 2nd week of September, her teacher, Miss Ellis, gave the students a task. Write a letter to someone important in your life. You don't have to give it to them. Just write from your heart. Anna sat at her desk, staring at the blank sheet of paper. Other kids scribbled away notes to grandparents, siblings, their dogs. Tyler wrote to a YouTube gamer. Mia wrote to her late goldfish, Captain Bubbles. But Anna's pencil didn't move for almost 20 minutes. Her fingers hovered, heart thudding. Then, slowly, she began. Dear Mommy, I don't know if I'm supposed to call you that anymore. Sometimes I say it out loud, and it sounds like a word that doesn't fit right. Like a shoe that pinches your toes. I remember how your hair used to smell like oranges when you hugged me. That was before things got bad. Before you turned the volume up so loud just so you wouldn't hear me crying. I know he hurt you too. But you were supposed to be my shield. You told me to be quiet. You looked away. Some days I'm so mad at you, I want to scream. Some days I want you to come back and say, I didn't know how to protect you, but I wish I had. But you haven't said that. And maybe you never will. I live with someone now who listens to me. Who stays when I have nightmares. Who learned how to braid hair just because I asked. He's not perfect. He burns toast and he's terrible at dancing. But he shows up. Every day. And that makes him a dad. Even if we don't share blood, I used to think I was broken. But I think maybe I was just waiting for the right person to help me grow. So I forgive you. Not because you said sorry, but because I don't want to carry you around anymore. Goodbye. Anna. She folded the letter and slipped it into her backpack, unsure if she'd throw it away or hide it forever. But something felt lighter, as if a splinter had been pulled from deep beneath her skin. That evening, Matthew picked her up from school as usual. She ran to him, backpack bouncing, eyes brighter than usual. Guess what? She said, hopping into the car. Miss Ellis says I'm good at writing. She says I make people feel things with words. She's right, Matthew said, merging into traffic. You've always had a strong voice. Anna smiled, then fell quiet for a while, staring out the window. Do you think people can change? She asked suddenly. He glanced at her. Some can. Some choose not to. She nodded. I wrote a letter. Not to send. Just to write. Would you like me to read it? Maybe one day, she said softly. Not yet. At home, she tucked the letter into the back of her drawer, beneath her sticker books and a drawing of her and Matthew at the lake. She didn't need to look at it again. The act of writing had been enough. As fall set in, their days grew cooler. They carved pumpkins together, roasted seeds in the oven, and Anna declared that Halloween was officially the best holiday ever invented. She dressed as a superhero cape, mask, and all. What's your superpower? Matthew asked, adjusting the strap on her tiny utility belt. Forgiveness, she said proudly, and throwing candy really far. That night, as she handed out treats at their door, she told every kid who came by, be nice to your grown-ups, but only the good ones. Matthew tried not to laugh, but failed miserably. Later that month, an article came out in the New York Times titled, From Shadows to Sunshine, the girl who spoke up. It was about Anna, her story, the trial, the outcome. It spoke of trauma, yes, but more importantly, of resilience. Anna read it 3 times, then asked, "Am I really brave, or just lucky?" "You're brave," Matthew answered. "Luck doesn't stand in courtrooms." She nodded slowly. "I think I want to help other kids like me someday." "You already do," he said, "more than you know." One chilly Sunday morning, as leaves danced outside their windows, Matthew brought out a box from the back of his closet. "I've been saving this for the right time," he said, placing it on the table. Anna opened it carefully. Inside were photos, papers, a tiny pink onesie, and a sealed envelope with her name written on it in her biological mother's handwriting. She froze. Matthew knelt beside her. "It came through the court. I didn't want you to see it until you were ready. You don't have to open it." Anna stared at the envelope for a long time. "I want to," she said finally. She broke the seal. It wasn't a long letter. Just a page. Messy handwriting. Tear-stained ink. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope one day you find peace. I wasn't strong enough to leave him. I was too scared. That's not your fault. It never was. I think about you every day. I hope you have someone kind in your life, someone better than I ever was. Love, Mom." Anna didn't cry. She folded the letter and placed it back in the box. Then she closed the lid. Matthew waited. After a while, she looked at him. "I don't hate her anymore. But I'm done with that story. I want to write a new one now." He smiled. "What's it going to be about?" "A girl who learned she wasn't small," she said. "Who wasn't just something bad that happened." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "I think it'll be the best story yet." And in that quiet kitchen, under golden morning light, surrounded by memories both painful and powerful, a chapter closed, not with a bang, but with understanding. Anna Rose Stone was no longer just a survivor. She was becoming. It was a crisp spring morning when Anna received the invitation that would change everything again. She found it in her backpack after school, a cream-colored envelope with her name written in cursive. Inside was a folded letter on thick paper that read, "Dear Miss Anna Stone, we would be honored to invite you as a keynote speaker for the National Child Advocacy Summit in Washington, D.C. Your story has become a beacon of hope for many. We believe your voice can inspire change. With respect and admiration, the Board of Children's Justice Alliance." Anna stared at the letter for a long time. She didn't say anything, just sat at the kitchen table, turning it over in her hands. Matthew walked in, wiping his hands on a dish towel. "Everything okay?" She looked up at him slowly. "They want me to speak. On a stage. In front of people." He took the letter, scanned it, then whistled. "That's quite an honor. I don't know if I can do it." He knelt beside her. "You've done harder things. But this is different. This is telling it again, in front of strangers. Sometimes strangers need to hear the truth. Especially when it's real. And strong. Like yours." She glanced down at her lap. "What if I mess up? Then you start again. Just like every time you fell off your bike." She gave him a half smile. "That was a lot of times, but you always got back up." She didn't answer right away. Then, "Will you be there?" "Every second," Anna agreed. The next few weeks were filled with preparation. She worked with a coach from the advocacy group, a warm woman named Carla, not the detective, who taught her how to project her voice, how to breathe through nerves, how to hold the microphone like it was her friend. They practiced at the library, in the living room, even in the elevator for fun. "I don't want to sound like a victim," Anna told her one day. "I want to sound like someone who won." Carla smiled. "You already do." When the day of the summit arrived, Anna wore a navy dress with tiny white stars, and her hair in 2 tight braids. Oliver the bear, now a bit frayed from love, came tucked neatly into her backpack, as always. The auditorium in D.C. was larger than anything she'd ever seen. Red velvet chairs stretched out in perfect rows. A massive screen displayed her name in bold letters. Anna Rose Stone, keynote speaker. She stood backstage, heart pounding. Matthew bent down beside her. "You don't have to prove anything." "I know," she whispered. "But I want to remind them. Remind the grown-ups what happens when they look away." He swallowed hard and nodded. Then she stepped into the light. The applause was polite at first, as it always was at these kinds of events. But when Anna reached the podium, looked up at the crowd of policymakers, teachers, counselors, and survivors, something inside her steadied. She took a breath and began. "I'm not here to make you sad," she said. "I'm here because I didn't disappear." The room fell completely silent. "I used to be afraid all the time. I thought if I spoke, no one would believe me. Or worse, they would believe me and do nothing." She paused, but then someone did believe me. And he didn't just listen, he stayed. He didn't save me like a superhero. He saved me by showing up, by being safe. She looked over at Matthew, sitting in the front row, eyes glassy. "I'm not here to be a story you forget tomorrow. I'm here because there are more Annas out there. Right now. Sitting in classrooms, walking down streets, hiding in closets, and they need you to stop turning away." She held up Oliver. "This bear came with me the day I ran away. He was the only one I trusted. Today, I want him to remind you that every child is carrying something, and they shouldn't have to carry it alone." She ended with a simple line. "We can't fix what we don't see, so open your eyes." The room erupted into applause, sustained, thunderous applause. Some stood, many cried. Anna blinked, overwhelmed, but she stood straight, her face calm. Backstage, reporters waited, but she only wanted one thing: Matthew's hug. "You did it," he said, wrapping his arms around her. "I was so scared." "Bravery isn't being fearless," he reminded her. "It's being scared and doing it anyway." She smiled. "Then I guess I'm really brave." That evening, they walked along the quiet D.C. streets, the city lights glowing softly above them. They passed the Lincoln Memorial, and Anna asked to stop. She climbed the steps slowly, looking up at the giant statue. "He looks kind," she said. "He was," Matthew replied. "He believed in fighting for people who didn't have a voice." Anna looked up at the inscription carved in stone. "Do you think one voice really makes a difference?" she asked. He looked at her. "Yours already has." She stood silently, letting the night wrap around her. Then she reached into her pocket and took out a folded slip of paper. It was a quote she had copied from a book weeks ago. She read it aloud. Quietly, "What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make." Jane Goodall. She nodded once, then looked at Matthew. "I think I want to keep speaking. You'll have an audience, but only if I can still eat ice cream after." He laughed. "Deal." And as they walked back, hand in hand, the sky above them vast and endless, Anna knew something with a certainty she hadn't known before. Her story wasn't just something terrible that happened to her. It was a light now, a lantern she could carry for others still in the dark. 1 year later, on a calm Sunday morning, the apartment was filled with the smell of cinnamon rolls and old jazz records. Matthew moved around the kitchen in pajama pants and a faded t-shirt that read, "World's Okayest Dad," flipping pancakes while humming along to Louis Armstrong. Anna sat at the table, hunched over a spiral notebook, her brow furrowed in focus. She was working on an essay for school. "What does home mean to you?" She had already crossed out 4 beginnings. The words didn't feel big enough for what she needed to say. Matthew glanced over and smiled. "Stuck?" "Sort of," Anna muttered, tapping her pencil against her chin. "They want us to describe home like it's just a place. Like walls and windows and stuff." He slid a plate in front of her. "Well, it is a place." Anna shook her head. "It's more than that. Then write what you feel, not what they expect." She stared at the page, then whispered, "Okay." Later that afternoon, while Matthew napped on the couch, she brought the finished essay to the balcony and read it aloud to the wind. "Home isn't where you're born. It's not the house you ran away from. It's not made of things, it's made of people, of promises, of voices that say, 'You're safe now.'" Home is someone waiting for you to wake up. Someone who sits through your nightmares. Someone who doesn't flinch when you tell the truth. I didn't grow up in a home. I survived in a space with walls. But I live in a home now, and I built it. With my voice. With my bear. With my dad. That's what home means to me. She folded the paper gently, slid it into her backpack, and went back inside to sit beside him. Matthew stirred, opened one eye. That bad, huh? I think I wrote something good. You always do. They didn't need to say much after that. Spring melted into summer. Anna turned 8 with a backyard picnic and a scavenger hunt Matthew spent 3 weeks planning. She was taller now, her curls longer, her laugh louder. The scars remained some visible. Most not, but they no longer defined her. She joined a youth writing group, spoke at 2 more events, started an online blog called Anna Speaks, where she wrote about healing, about childhood, about the small joys that kept her going. One entry read, "Some people think healing means you forget. But I don't want to forget. I want to remember how far I've come. I want to carry both my bruises and my victories. Because both are part of me." The blog gained traction. Comments poured in from kids, parents, survivors. Some said her words gave them courage. Others just said thank you. Matthew watched all of it with quiet awe. One night, while tucking her in, he asked, "Does it ever scare you being seen like this?" She considered. "It used to. But now I think, if I don't speak, maybe someone else won't either." She turned to look at him. "Remember when I couldn't sleep without checking the locks 10 times? He smiled. "I remember. I don't check anymore." He didn't speak. He just pulled the blanket tighter around her and kissed her forehead. The next morning, they had visitors. A woman from the Children's Justice Alliance came to the apartment with a film crew. They were doing a short documentary on survivors who had become advocates. Anna was their lead story. The camera crew was small and kind. They set up in the living room, adjusting lights, asking gentle questions. "Do you remember the moment things started to feel different?" one producer asked her. Anna looked at the camera. "Yes. The night someone sat down in the dark and didn't ask me to explain. Just stayed. What would you say to a child who feels like no one sees them?" "I see you," she answered. "You matter. And the bad thing isn't the end of your story." After they left, Matthew made grilled cheese sandwiches while Anna sketched in her notebook. "I think I want to write a book someday," she said. "You've got enough story in you to fill 10, he replied. "Would you help me?" Every chapter. That night, as they cleaned up the dishes and turned off the lights, Anna stopped by the bookshelf. She pulled out the music box, the one with their photo inside, and wound it gently. The soft lullaby played as she held it in her palms. "I used to think I was the ending," she said, "but I think I'm just the beginning." Matthew knelt beside her. "You're the beginning of something beautiful." V. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by the life they had built, not one of perfection, but of persistence, Anna finally understood something deeper than all the speeches, all the articles, all the praise. She wasn't brave because she'd survived. She was brave because she kept choosing to live. Every day. Louder, freer, more whole. She closed the music box, turned to her father. "Ready for tomorrow?" he asked. She grinned. "Always." And they walked down the hallway together, hand in hand, as the last notes of the lullaby faded into the soft, unshakable promise of everything yet to come. The letter came on a rainy Tuesday, slipped between an electric bill and a pizza coupon. The envelope was pale blue, handwritten, with no return address. Just to Anna Rose Stone in slightly shaky cursive. Anna noticed it first. She was helping Matthew sort the mail after dinner, humming a song from music class. She froze mid-hum. "What's this?" she asked, holding it out. Matthew looked at the envelope, then at her. "You want me to open it?" "No, I want to." She took it carefully, walked to the couch, and peeled it open with slow fingers. Inside was a single folded sheet. She unfolded it and read silently. Her breath slowed. Her lips pressed tight. Matthew waited. After a minute, She passed it to him. It read, "Dear Anna, I don't know if I deserve the right to write to you, but I've carried the weight of silence for too long. I watched you testify. I read your words. And I see now what I couldn't face then. I failed you. I froze when I should have fought. I was afraid of him, afraid of losing everything. But I lost you anyway. Not a day has gone by that I haven't thought of you. Your laugh. Your curls. The way you used to hum when you colored. I understand if you never want to see me again, but if you ever want to talk, even just once, I'll be at the bench under the elm tree in Thompson Park next Sunday at 3 p.m. I won't come closer unless you ask. I'll wait. 1 hour. And then I'll go. I'm sorry. Love, Mom." Matthew looked up at her. She stared out the window, arms folded tightly across her chest. "Well," she said, "I guess she found her voice. Do you want to go?" "I don't know." She chewed her lip. Part of me wants to scream at her. The other part wants to ask if she ever really loved me. You can want both. I don't want to need anything from her, Anna added quickly. Needing isn't weakness, Matthew said gently. It's just human. Anna didn't answer right away. Then she said, I'll think about it. She thought about it all week. She didn't tell her friends, didn't mention it at school. But she walked slower on the way home. Got quiet at dinner, read less. Drew more. Finally, Sunday came. Matthew offered no pressure. He made pancakes and read the paper. But at 2:10 p.m., Anna stood at the door, already in her coat. Let's go, she said. Thompson Park was quiet. The trees were just beginning to bud. Shy hints of green brushing the branches. The elm tree near the lake stood as steady as it always had, its long arms reaching down like an invitation. Anna spotted her first, a woman sitting on the bench, shoulders slightly hunched, hair pulled into a loose bun, wearing the same green jacket Anna remembered from when she was small. Matthew stopped beside her. You sure? Anna nodded. You stay here. He let her go, watching every step. Her mother looked up as she approached. And Anna saw it. The years, the weight, the regret etched into every line. She stood slowly. Anna raised a hand. Don't hug me. Her mother stopped. Of course. They sat on the bench, a cautious distance between them. Anna looked straight ahead. Why now? Because I couldn't pretend anymore. Her mother said softly. Not after seeing you become everything I wasn't brave enough to be. You let him hurt me. I know. You told me not to cry. I was wrong. Anna's voice wavered. You watched. You turned away. Do you know what that did to me? Her mother wiped her eyes. Every day. I know I can't undo it. I came today not to ask for forgiveness, just to say it to your face. I was a coward, and you didn't deserve any of it. Silence stretched long between them. Anna's fingers twisted in her lap. I needed you. And you left me alone in that house. I failed you. Her mother whispered. And I will carry that forever. They sat quietly again, listening to the breeze move through the branches. Then Anna spoke, her voice small. Do you think you loved me? Or were you just scared to lose him? Her mother turned slowly. I loved you. I love you. But I didn't know how to choose you without losing myself. And that is my shame. Anna stood. You don't get to rewrite it. I know. But thank you, she added, almost too softly to hear. For not pretending it didn't happen. Her mother looked up, eyes shining. Can I ever write to you again? Maybe, Anna said. Someday. She turned and walked back to Matthew, who was waiting under the shadow of a tree. She didn't cry. She didn't look back. In the car, she stared out the window. Want to talk? Matthew asked gently. No, she said, then added, but thank you for coming with me. That night, she placed the letter back into its envelope and slid it into the same box where she kept the music box and the photos and the old newspaper clipping from the trial. Part of the story, but not all of it. As she brushed her teeth, she looked at herself in the mirror, same curls, a little taller, a little stronger. She didn't feel broken anymore, just layered. And in her journal that night, she wrote, "She came, she spoke, I listened. I didn't shatter, I didn't scream, I stood, that's all I needed." Then she closed the journal, turned off the lamp, and fell asleep not with fear, not with anger, but with the quiet kind of peace that only comes when you finally know you've outgrown the cage they tried to keep you in. Summer came early that year, the kind of golden warmth that made everything seem softer, slower. Windows stayed open, laughter floated in from the neighbors' kids playing tag, and Anna's sandals were always covered in chalk dust. But the biggest change that season didn't come from outside, it came from inside. One Saturday morning, Anna walked into the living room holding a small paint swatch booklet. "I want to repaint my room," she said, her tone casual, but her eyes steady. Matthew looked up from his coffee. "Really? Already tired of the lavender?" She nodded. "It feels like an old version of me. I want something new. Something I pick. Something that feels like now." He smiled slowly, catching the deeper meaning beneath her words. "Then let's do it." They drove to the hardware store that afternoon. Anna wandered down every aisle with serious concentration, flipping through palettes with the intensity of someone choosing the color of her future. After nearly an hour, she pointed to a soft, rich shade of teal. "This one," she said. "It's calm, but not quiet. Kind of like you," Matthew said. She smiled. "Exactly." They spent the weekend repainting. Anna wore her oldest t-shirt, one covered in glitter and holes. Music played from a small speaker, her playlist, full of songs that made her feel strong. She used the roller brush carefully, covering every inch of lavender until there was no trace of it left. "Feels like I'm erasing a ghost," she whispered once. "You're not erasing it," Matthew said. "You're painting over it, choosing what comes next." When they finished, she stood in the center of the room, hands on her hips, cheeks smudged with paint, and nodded in satisfaction. "This is my room now," she said. Finally, she added new things too. A corkboard for her blog printouts. A small framed quote that read, "Still I rise, Maya Angelou." A hanging chair in the corner where she could read, write, or just think. And next to her bed, always, was Oliver. That night, she lay under fresh bed sheets, staring at her ceiling, which they had dotted with glow in the dark stars. "It feels like I can breathe better in here," she told Matthew as he tucked her in. "That's what healing does," he said. "It makes room for new air." In the following weeks, something else shifted. Anna began helping out at a local children's shelter every Saturday. Not in a big way, just reading stories to younger kids, passing out snacks, showing them how to use the crayon sharpener. But every time she walked in, the room seemed to get a little brighter. The director, a woman named Miss Ray, noticed. "Anna has something," she told Matthew one afternoon. "It's like the kids can feel she understands them, even when she doesn't say much. She's only 8, but I swear she carries more wisdom than most adults I know." Matthew wasn't surprised. One day, a boy named Jaden came in. He was 6. Angry. Quiet. Covered in small bruises he wouldn't talk about. He refused to play, refused to eat, wouldn't make eye contact with any of the staff, until Anna sat next to him and said, "You can borrow Oliver if you want." Jaden blinked at her. She placed the bear gently beside him and walked away. 15 minutes later, he was hugging the bear. By the end of the hour, he was coloring. 2 weeks later, he smiled. Anna never said much about it. But Matthew noticed how she cleaned Oliver extra carefully that night, patting his worn fur with a towel and whispering, "You did good today." As summer continued, so did the quiet victories. Anna spoke at one more event, a smaller gathering at the library. Afterwards, an older woman approached her. "I'm 73, the woman said, "and you're the first person who ever made me feel like I could talk about what happened to me when I was a girl." Anna's hands trembled as she hugged her. That night, she told Matthew, "I used to think my story was just about what happened to me. But now, I think it's about what I do with it." He looked at her, full of wonder. "And what do you want to do with it?" "Build a bridge," she said, "so nobody has to walk through it alone." As school approached, Anna started writing more. Not just blog posts, stories. Short, powerful pieces about kids who became warriors. about girls with broken wings who taught themselves to fly. One of her stories was published in the school paper. The headline read, "A room repainted." The final line read, "Healing isn't quiet, it's loud with hope." On the first day of school, she wore a new dress and a quiet smile. As she walked into the building, someone behind her called out, "Hey, you're the girl from the blog, right?" Anna turned and nodded. "Your story helped my cousin, thanks." And just like that, she stepped into another year not defined by what had happened, but by everything she was becoming. That night, as they sat on the balcony watching the sun dip below the rooftops, Matthew asked, "So, what's next?" Anna didn't answer right away. She watched the sky change colors. Then she said, "Maybe one day, I'll write a book, or start a group, or open a place where kids like me can just be. You'd be amazing at all of it." She looked at him. "Will you still be around when I'm all grown up?" He reached for her hand. "I'll be around forever. Even when I'm old and grumpy." She smiled. "You're already grumpy," he laughed. "Then I'm ahead of schedule." And in the hush of that evening, in the painted room that held her past and her future, Anna Rose Stone rested her head on her father's shoulder and whispered, "I'm not afraid of the dark anymore." And she wasn't, not even a little. The idea came to Anna during a thunderstorm. She had been reading on her window seat, curled up with a blanket and a book about a girl who built a garden in the middle of a war zone. Thunder rolled softly in the background as rain tapped gently against the glass. Matthew was in the kitchen, humming off-key and burning something again. Anna closed the book slowly and stared out into the gray sky. Her mind had been stirring for weeks after helping at the shelter, after speaking at the school, after watching kids light up when someone finally listened to them. "I want to build a place," she told Matthew that night over dinner. He looked up, blinking. "Like a fort?" She grinned. "Like a real place. A space where kids like me can go. Not just for 1 hour a week. Not just to talk about what hurt, but to paint, to dance, to breathe. A place where they don't feel like survivors. Just kids again." Matthew set down his fork. "That's a big dream." Anna nodded. "I know. And what would you call it?" She thought for a long moment, then said, "The Bridge House. Because it's not the beginning or the end, it's the in-between place. The part where you cross over from pain to hope." He sat back, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Then we better start drafting some plans." That night, Anna pulled out a fresh notebook and titled the first page, "The Bridge House, Dreams into Brick." She drew floor plans, messy, lopsided ones. She made a list of everything the house would need: a music room, a kid library, a rooftop garden, a kitchen that always smells like cinnamon, a wall of stories where every kid could write their name and say, "I made it." She stayed up far past bedtime, and when Matthew peeked in to remind her of the time, she looked up with ink-stained fingers and shining eyes. "I think this is what I'm meant to do." He didn't argue. He just said, "Okay, architect, let's build." In the months that followed, things moved slowly but surely. Matthew reached out to his connections, nonprofits, architects, foundations. Anna wrote letters, recorded a short video explaining her vision, and posted it online. It spread faster than they expected. Her words struck something deep in people. "When I was lost, someone opened a door for me. Now I want to build a door for others, one that never closes." Within weeks, they had raised enough to begin the legal steps. Paperwork, permits, meetings. Anna came to everyone, sat at the big table with adults in suits. She asked questions. She listened hard. "She's not just a symbol," one investor said. "She's the architect of her own recovery." The location they chose was a rundown old community center on the edge of the city. Broken windows, cracked walls, but solid bones. Anna stood in the middle of the dusty space, arms crossed, eyes wide. "It's perfect," she said, "because it needs what we need, repair, but it's still standing." Renovation began. Anna picked out the colors: bright yellows, soft blues, deep greens. She insisted the ceilings be painted too, so no one feels boxed in. She requested every room have a small shelf of plants. "Even something tiny deserves to grow," she said. The first mural went up on the west wall, a winding bridge made of glowing names, real ones, submitted by kids who had written to her from all over the country. The week before opening, Anna stood in the center of the nearly finished building, hands on her hips, tears in her eyes. "It's really happening," she whispered. Matthew came up behind her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You did this. We did this." On opening day, the bridge house buzzed with life. Families walked through the halls. Children peeked into art rooms and reading corners. There were cupcakes and music and laughter echoing off freshly painted walls. Anna gave a short speech. She wore a blazer 2 sizes too big and her favorite sneakers. "I built this for the girl I used to be," she said. "And for the boy who doesn't know if it's safe to sleep. And for the child who thinks they're too broken to be loved. You're not. You never were." People cried. People clapped. And when the doors opened officially, the rooms filled with noise, joy, and possibility. Later that evening, long after the last cupcake was gone and the lights were dimmed, Anna walked the halls alone. She paused at the mural of the bridge and added one more name at the base in gold ink: Anna Rose Stone. She stepped back, hands smudged with gold, and whispered to the empty room, "Welcome, home." And for the first time, in a place she helped build brick by brick, not out of concrete, but out of hope, Anna didn't feel like a girl who had survived the storm. She felt like the one planting trees in its wake. Anna was in the art room when she heard it, the soft sound of a child crying, not loud, not attention-seeking, but the kind of cry that tried to stay invisible. The kind she knew too well. She set down her paintbrush and followed the sound to the music room. Tucked behind the old piano, knees hugged to her chest, sat a little girl no older than 6. Her shoes were mismatched, her braids uneven. Her shirt said "Daddy's Girl," but the letters were faded, like they were trying to forget something too. Anna knelt slowly. "Hi," she said, gentle and low. "I'm Anna. What's your name?" The girl looked up through wet lashes. "Marley." Anna smiled. "That's a strong name." Marley didn't respond. She looked away, silent again. Anna didn't push. She just sat beside her, back against the same piano. "You want to know a secret?" she whispered. Marley glanced at her. "I used to cry in places like this, quiet corners, places where no one could see." "Why?" Marley asked, voice barely a thread. Anna picked at a dried spot of paint on her jeans. "Because it felt like the world forgot me. Like I had to carry everything by myself." Marley's lip quivered. "Me too." Anna turned her head, their eyes meeting. "But then someone saw me. Not just looked at me, saw me. And they didn't try to fix me. They just stayed." Silence. Then Marley asked, "Is that why you built this place?" Anna nodded. "So no one has to cry alone ever again." They sat in quiet for a while. Anna offered her a small, fabric heart stitched by one of the volunteers. Marley held it like it was gold. Later that evening, Anna found Matthew in the hallway, adjusting a wobbly bookshelf. "She's the first," Anna said quietly. He turned. "The first what?" "The first one I saw in here who reminded me of me." He didn't speak. He just reached out and touched her shoulder, proud in the silence. That night, Anna wrote in her journal. Today, the walls listened. And when they did, they whispered back, "You're not alone." The weeks rolled on. The bridge house wasn't just a building anymore, it was alive. Kids came after school, on weekends. Some for snacks, others just to sit in peace. There were art shows made of paper and glue, story hours with soft cushions and warm cocoa, a feelings board that changed colors depending on the mood of the day. And always, laughter small at first, then growing louder, like the building itself was learning to breathe. Anna kept working. Not because she had to, but because it mattered. She greeted every child by name. She sat with them during their silences. She learned their favorite colors, the songs they hummed when they thought no one was listening, and the way their eyes shifted when they needed a little extra grace. One day, Miss Ray, now serving as director of operations, came into the office holding a thick envelope. "College application materials," she said, placing it on Anna's desk. Anna blinked. "College? You'll be 16 in 2 months, sweetheart. And colleges are already calling. Scholarships. Fellowships. One of them wants you to come speak. Another wants you to help design a curriculum on childhood advocacy." Anna stared at the envelope like it had teeth. "Breathe," Ms. Ray chuckled. "You don't have to choose anything today. But you've built something beautiful here. And the world's noticing." Anna picked up the envelope. It was heavier than she expected. That night, sitting on the balcony with Matthew, she said, "What if I leave, and it all falls apart?" Matthew leaned back. "Then you'll rebuild. That's what you do. I'm not done here. Maybe not. But you're also allowed to grow beyond these walls." Anna stared at the night sky. The stars faint but real. "I never thought I'd have options." Matthew smiled. "That's the real victory, isn't it? Not escaping the pain, but reaching a place where you get to choose what comes next." In the days that followed, Anna didn't rush. She walked the halls like always. She listened. She stayed late. She sketched out ideas for new rooms, new programs. But in the back of her mind, the envelope sat quiet, patient. Then, one afternoon, Marley came running up with a drawing. It was messy and bright and beautiful. "This is me and you and Oliver," she said, pointing to each stick figure. "And this is the big bridge. And look, no monsters." Anna laughed softly. "That's the best kind of picture." Marley grinned. "I think I'm okay now." Anna knelt. "You're better than okay. You're strong." Then Marley asked, "But what happens if you go away?" Anna paused. "What do you think happens?" Marley thought hard. "I think the bridge still stands. Because we all helped build it." Anna's heart caught. "Yes," she whispered. "That's exactly right." That night, Anna finally opened the envelope. Inside were forms, brochures, a handwritten note from a professor. "We believe your experience isn't just powerful, it's necessary. Come share it with us. Help us teach the world how to listen." She folded the letter slowly, carefully. Then she pulled out her notebook and wrote, "Bridges aren't meant to be destinations. They're meant to be crossed. And maybe now, it's time for me to walk forward again." She looked up at the teal walls of her bedroom, the ones she'd painted years ago. They still comforted her. But they didn't contain her. She wasn't that girl hiding behind the piano anymore. She was the one handing out maps. And sometimes, you have to keep walking to draw new ones. "Tomorrow," she'd write back. But tonight, she rested. Not from pain, not from fear. She rested from building. Because even architects need to pause and dream what comes next. The day Anna decided to say yes to the scholarship, it rained again, soft, steady, like the sky was washing the world clean. She stood by the window in the Bridge House's library, watching drops race each other down the glass. The building hummed with quiet energy behind her soft voices in the reading corner, the creak of floorboards, the clink of tea mugs in the kitchen. She held the acceptance letter in her hands. Brown University, full ride, a program designed around healing and storytelling. They'd created a position for her, youth advocate in residence. It wasn't just an education, it was a platform, a next step, and she was ready. Still, the ache of leaving tugged at her ribs like a small, persistent hand. Marley came in just before closing, rainwater dripping from her sleeves, shoes soaked. "I lost my umbrella," she said sheepishly. Anna grabbed a towel and dried her off. "It's just water," she said, smiling. "You've been through worse." Marley grinned. "Yeah, like broccoli casserole day at school lunch." They sat in the window seat together, watching the rain. "Miss Anna," Marley said, voice suddenly serious, "are you going away?" Anna didn't answer right away. She looked at the little girl whose silence she'd once broken with a single act of presence. "I am," she said softly. "But not forever." Marley stared at her knees. "Who's going to be here when someone new cries?" Anna reached into her satchel and pulled out a small wooden key. She'd had it carved weeks ago, had painted it gold herself. "You are," she said, placing the key into Marley's hand. "You know where the blankets are. You know how to make cocoa. You know how to sit without asking questions. That's what this key means." You're ready to help the next you. Marley held it like treasure. Her lip trembled, but she didn't cry. Will you write me? Anna smiled. I'll write so often your mailbox will need a second box. That night, Anna walked the halls of the bridge house one last time, barefoot, quiet. She touched every wall, every photo frame, every chipped corner. She paused in the music room, where she had first met Marley. In the art studio, where hundreds of messy, colorful hands had left their mark. In the kitchen, where Matthew had once burned a whole tray of cookies and insisted they were extra toasted. He was waiting for her on the front porch, a steaming mug in each hand. She knows, he asked. Anna nodded. She'll be okay. She has your strength. Anna leaned against the railing, sipping slowly. You sure you're okay with this? I'm more than okay, he said. I'm proud. I've watched you fight for air, for light, for dignity. And now you're choosing something not out of fear, but out of purpose. That's everything a parent could ever hope for. She looked at him, eyes full. I still need you, you know. I'll always be here, he said. Bridge house or not, you carry me with you. The following week, a small farewell gathering filled the main room. Kids brought handmade cards. Staff shared stories. Miss Ray cried twice. Marley presented Anna with a photo album titled, The Bridge We Built, and Matthew handed her a key, an identical wooden one. Yours to carry, he said, in case you ever need to find your way back. The morning she left, Anna stood outside the bridge house's front door, suitcase by her side. Oliver peeking out from the top. The sky was pale blue. The air smelled like promise. She placed one final item under the welcome mat, a small note wrapped around a stone. It read, If you are lost, come in. If you are scared, sit down. If you are ready, take a brick and build. The train ride to Providence was long but quiet. She watched cities blur by buildings, bridges, neighborhoods she didn't know but somehow recognized. Somewhere along the ride, she wrote in her journal, Leaving doesn't mean forgetting. It means believing there's more waiting for you than what you've already survived. When she arrived on campus, there was a small group waiting: students, staff, even a few young advocates who had read her blog for years. One girl, probably 15, held up a sign that said, Anna Rose, you gave us a voice. Anna blushed. She never got used to the praise. Not because she didn't believe it, but because it still surprised her how far her voice had reached. Her dorm was small and warm, a single bed, a desk near the window. She placed Oliver on the pillow, her journal on the nightstand, and the gold key in the drawer. She stared at the room for a long moment. Then she whispered, Okay, let's build again. That first week was overwhelming: lectures, orientations, interviews. She was the youngest in her program. But never once did she feel small. She asked questions others were afraid to ask. She spoke with the fire of someone who had once been silent. One professor asked her during a seminar, What do you think is the most powerful tool in healing trauma? Anna didn't hesitate. Not fixing, she said. Witnessing, being seen without flinching. A hush fell over the room. That night, she received her first letter at college. It was from Marley. It read, Dear Miss Anna, today a new girl came in. She didn't talk at first, so I just sat with her. I gave her cocoa, and I told her she didn't have to talk until she was ready. I think she will. I used the key. Thank you for giving it to me. I keep it in my shoe for good luck. Love, Marley the Brave. Anna pressed the letter to her heart, and somewhere deep inside her, a quiet, steady truth began to settle. She wasn't just building bridges anymore. She was building builders. The autumn leaves in Providence painted the streets gold and rust. Anna walked to class each morning through a canopy of colors, her satchel bouncing at her side, a warm scarf tucked beneath her coat. The wind carried a kind of memory in it, sharp but not painful anymore. Just familiar. Like an old song she once cried to, now just background music. College life had settled into rhythm. Lectures on trauma, psychology, late-night study sessions, quiet coffee shop mornings where she edited her writing while people bustled around her. Her professors respected her. Her peers listened, and once a week, she taught a seminar called Telling the Hard Stories, where she gently guided other students through the art of holding space for themselves and for others. One October afternoon, as she returned from class, she found an envelope waiting in her campus mailbox. No return address, just her name. Inside was a single page, folded once. Anna, I saw your name in an article last week. I wasn't sure I should write this. I still don't know if I should. But something told me to try. I'm not the man I was. Prison will do that to a person. But I've sat with what I did. Every day. Every night. I see your face. The little girl I destroyed. No words can undo it. I won't pretend they can. But I wanted to say that I see it now. The pain, the horror, the betrayal. I own it. I've been working with a prison counselor. She said writing might help. So I wrote this. Not to ask for forgiveness. Just to tell you, I remember. I regret. And I hope you've found the peace I took from you. Jack. Anna's hands trembled. Her throat tightened. She sat down slowly on the bench outside the mailroom, knees unsteady. Jack. Her stepfather. The man who shattered everything. She hadn't heard his name in years. She never wanted to. And yet here it was in her hands. Not screaming. Not threatening. Just there. She folded the letter and placed it in her coat pocket, then walked across campus without seeing the leaves, the faces, the sky. Back in her dorm, she closed the door softly, sat on her bed, and stared at the folded paper. She didn't cry, not because it didn't hurt, but because she had shed all those tears already. Years ago. When no one saw, now, she felt something else. Not forgiveness, not closure, but clarity. He was not a monster in the dark anymore. He was a man in a cell, and she was free. She took out her journal, wrote only one line. The past doesn't vanish, but it loses its power when we face it with open eyes. Later that evening, she called Matthew. He answered on the second ring, his voice familiar and warm. Pumpkin? I got a letter, she said. He listened as she explained, word for word, pausing often, letting the silence speak with her. When she finished, he was quiet. Then he said, You don't owe him anything. I know. But you also don't have to burn the letter unless you need to. You get to choose what it means. I think, she said slowly, I'll keep it. Not because I want to, but because it reminds me how far I've come. That's more than strength, Anna. That's wisdom. She smiled faintly. You always say the right thing. Only because you always teach me what matters. Oh. The next day, during her seminar, she told her students, Sometimes, the hardest letter to receive is the one you never thought you'd get. But healing isn't just about silence. It's about knowing that even when the world throws the past back in your lap, you're not the same person who lived it. The room went still. One student, a boy named Theo, raised his hand. How do you keep going when the ghosts try to come back? Anna looked around the room, young faces, some carrying pain too heavy for their years. You build stronger roots, she said, so when the wind comes, it doesn't blow you away. It just reminds you how deep you've grown. Later that week, Anna received another letter. This one was from Marley. Dear Miss Anna, guess what? I helped a boy this week. He was scared to sleep with the lights off, so I gave him my backup flashlight and told him monsters are just shadows waiting to become stories. He smiled. I think I'm going to be like you one day. But with better hair. P.S. Oliver says he. Anna laughed out loud in her dorm room. Then she walked to the little drawer beside her bed, pulled out the wooden key, and held it in her hand. It still felt warm. She thought of all the bridges she'd crossed, some made of pain, some of purpose, and she realized this was no longer just about survival. This was about legacy. She sat down and began drafting a letter of her own, not to Jack, not to the past, but to a girl she hadn't met yet. Dear you, maybe you're hurting. Maybe you think no one sees you. But I do. I see you. I was you. And I built something so you don't have to stay there. There's a key waiting for you. When you're ready. She folded the letter, placed it in an envelope, and wrote one word on the front. Future. Then she tucked it into her journal, next to Marley's drawing and her own childhood photo. And when she turned out the light that night, she didn't feel haunted. She felt whole. It was the kind of morning that carried possibility in the air, crisp, sunlit, and golden. Anna stood in front of the full-length mirror in her dorm room, adjusting the collar of her white blouse. Her hands were steady, but her heart beat a little faster than usual. Today was different. She reached for the envelope that had arrived a month ago, thick, embossed, with a seal that read, National Youth Advocacy Summit, Keynote Speaker Invitation. She had spoken before. To classrooms, community halls, even podcasts. But this was a national stage. Thousands would be watching. And not all of them would be kind. Some would question her right to be there. Some would still see her as a broken girl with a loud voice. But Anna no longer saw that girl when she looked in the mirror. She saw someone who had walked through fire and chosen to carry water for others. She arrived at the convention center just before noon. The backstage area buzzed with activity makeup artists, tech teams, coordinators checking watches, and whispering into headsets. A woman with silver hair and warm eyes greeted her. Anna Rose Stone. I've been looking forward to this all year. Anna smiled, extending her hand. Thank you for inviting me. You're not here because we're generous, the woman said with a wink. You're here because you're needed. She was fitted with a small microphone. A volunteer handed her a bottle of water. And then, just before the curtain opened, she took a deep breath and closed her eyes. She pictured her old bedroom lavender walls, a stuffed bear on her bed, a crack in the ceiling shaped like a bird. She pictured Marley, clutching the wooden key. She pictured Matthew's face the first time he called her pumpkin with love instead of pity. And then, she walked out into the light. The auditorium fell silent. Thousands of eyes turned toward her. Cameras blinked like stars. Anna stepped up to the podium, her notes folded in her palm, untouched. My name is Anna Rose Stone, she began, her voice clear. And for too long, my story belonged to someone else. She paused, letting that truth settle. Like so many others, I grew up thinking pain was something I had to hide. That silence was survival. That speaking up meant losing what little I had left. She let her eyes sweep across the crowd. But silence didn't save me. Speaking did. And not just for myself, but for every child who sat in a dark room, waiting for someone to knock on the door and say, "You matter." Applause erupted, but she continued gently. I didn't come here today to tell you how to fix broken systems. I came to remind you that healing starts not with answers, but with attention. With choosing to see the stories we often turn away from. The messy ones. The uncomfortable ones. She told them about the bridge house, about Marley, about the letters, and then, softly, she said, a man who hurt me once wrote from prison, not to beg, not to lie, but to say, I remember. And that memory, his owning it, did not erase what happened, but it reminded me that we do not carry shame forever. We pass it back to its rightful place. She closed her speech with the words she had written in her journal weeks before. The past doesn't vanish. But when we face it with open eyes, it loses its power. I am not here as a victim. I am here as a builder. And this stage, this moment, this life is what I have built. The standing ovation lasted nearly 5 minutes. Anna didn't cry until she stepped backstage again, the applause still echoing like distant thunder. She sat alone for a moment, letting it wash over her. Then her phone buzzed. A message from Matthew. Watched every word. Proud doesn't even begin to cover it. Another from Marley. I showed your speech to the new girl. She said, I want to be like her someday. I told her, you already are. That night, Anna returned to her dorm, exhausted but full. She placed the event badge in her scrapbook next to a photo of the Bridge House's ribbon-cutting ceremony. She looked around the room, then at Oliver, still perched quietly on her pillow, and then she did something unexpected. She opened her laptop, created a new document, and typed, Chapter 1. This is not a story about darkness. This is a story about how I found the switch. She had thought the keynote was the pinnacle. But now she saw it differently. It was just the prologue. In the weeks that followed, she began working on her book, a memoir. Yes, but also a guide. A blueprint for survivors, for caretakers, for anyone trying to make sense of the broken pieces in their own hands. Publishers reached out. Offers came in. But Anna didn't rush. She wanted this to be hers, truthful, clear, unflinching. One night, deep in the middle of a chapter, she paused and walked outside. The sky was peppered with stars. A gentle breeze carried the scent of distant fireplaces. She stood there a long time, arms wrapped around herself, not from cold, but from peace, because for the first time in her life, she wasn't waiting to be rescued. She was living in the light she had lit herself. The first snow arrived early that year in Providence. Not the biting kind, but soft and playful. Like nature was giving the world a second chance at being new again. Anna stood by the window of her dorm, watching snowflakes swirl under the lamplight. She didn't say a word, just smiled. Her manuscript sat open on her desk, 120 pages in. The words had poured from her like old memories finally ready to be released. But this wasn't a book about pain, it was about what came after. She titled it, The Bridge Between Us. The publisher's call had come that morning. The editor, a woman named Lucia, with a voice that danced like music, had said, "We're not just publishing your book, Anna. We want to build a campaign around it. Workshops, speaking tours, scholarships under your name." Anna's first reaction had been quiet, overwhelmed, humbled. But beneath it all, there was a flicker of something else. Readiness. Later that night, Anna called Matthew. "They want to send me on a speaking tour," she said, curling into her chair. "New York, Chicago, D.C., even L.A. Matthew was silent for a moment, then said, "That's not just a tour. That's a movement." Anna exhaled. "What if I lose myself in it?" "You won't," he said, "because you've already found yourself. You're not looking for a spotlight, Anna. You're lighting the path for others." That night, after the call, Anna took out the small wooden key she always kept in her drawer. She held it to her chest and whispered, "I'll carry this with me. Always." The tour began in early spring. Her first stop, New York City. The auditorium was vast. High ceilings and velvet seats. Cameras hovering in the back. But when she stepped onto the stage, all Anna saw were faces eager, nervous, open. She spoke not as a celebrity or survivor, but as someone who understood. She told stories. She laughed. She cried once. Just once. When she talked about Marley. "She's why I keep going," Anna said, her voice soft but certain. "Because if one child can feel safe again, then everything I lived through becomes something useful." After the event, people lined up to meet her: teachers, parents, social workers, teens with trembling voices and tearful eyes. One girl, no older than 12, hugged her tightly and whispered, "You said what I couldn't say out loud." Anna hugged her back. "You don't have to say it all at once. Just enough to feel lighter." The tour stretched on for weeks, city after city, hotel rooms with too much quiet, flights that blurred into each other. But no matter how tired she became, Anna always made time to listen, to write back, to send voice notes, to show up not as an icon, but as a bridge. In Chicago, she visited a shelter named Phoenix Place. The walls were lined with children's art. She asked the director if she could speak with the kids. No cameras. No stage. Just a circle on the floor. They sat cross-legged, passing around a stuffed bear as a talking stick. One by one, the children shared things they'd never said before, not because Anna asked them to, but because they trusted her presence. "I'm not magic," she told them gently. "I'm just someone who stayed when it got hard." Back in Providence, Marley wrote her letters every week. "Dear Miss Anna, we planted a tree today at the Bridge House. I named it Anna's tree because it's small now, but it's going to grow really tall and give shade to others. Just like you." Anna pinned that letter to her wall. By the time her tour reached Los Angeles, something inside her had shifted. She no longer doubted her place in the world. She had stopped waiting for permission. During her final speech at UCLA, she stood on stage, took a deep breath, and said, "I used to believe I had to be healed before I could help others. But I've learned that healing isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. Some days you dance. Some days you crawl. But as long as you're moving forward, You're building something that lasts. When she stepped off the stage, the audience was on its feet. But more importantly, a quiet line of young people waited to simply say, "Thank you." Back in her hotel room that night, Anna opened her journal. She wrote, "I thought I was just telling my story. But really, I was returning pieces of courage to people who'd lost theirs." And under that, she added one more line. "It's time to go home." She flew back to Providence a week later. As the cab pulled into the old neighborhood, the familiar shape of the bridge house came into view, warm lights in the windows, laughter spilling out the front door. Marley was waiting on the porch, taller now, hair in braids with little beads that clicked in the wind. Anna stepped out of the cab, suitcase in hand. Marley ran to her. "You came back." Anna knelt, arms wide. "Of course I did." Inside, nothing had changed, and yet everything had. The kids were older. The walls had new artwork. The kitchen smelled of cinnamon and cocoa. Matthew was at the stove, grinning. "Told you she'd come back." "Oh." That evening, they held a small gathering in the main room. Anna sat in the circle like everyone else, listening to updates, hugs, stories, laughter. And when it was her turn to speak, she looked around and said, "You don't need me the way you used to. And that's the greatest thing I could ever witness. But," she added with a smile, "I'm still here, always, with roots in this house and wings in the world." No. That night, long after everyone had gone home, Anna stood in the empty hallway of the bridge house. She traced her hand across the mural of names on the wall, now longer than ever. And then, she reached into her pocket, pulled out the wooden key, and placed it gently in a small glass box beside the front door. A plaque beneath it read, "To the next one who chooses to stay. This key opens more than a door, it opens a future." Anna smiled, turned toward the night, and stepped into the next chapter of her life, not as the girl who survived, but as the woman who helped others begin. The story of Anna Rose Stone teaches us that true healing begins not when the pain ends, but when we choose to rise above it with purpose. Through resilience, compassion, and the courage to speak out, Anna transforms her trauma into a bridge for others to cross. Her journey reminds us that even in our darkest moments, we can become light for someone else. And sometimes, the most powerful thing we can offer is not perfection but presence, empathy, and the unwavering belief that broken things can still build beautiful futures.